The Galactic Council's chamber was a colossus of marble and metal, suspended in a rotating citadel that overlooked a star so ancient it pulsed like the heartbeat of time itself. For millennia, this was where empires were made, where rebellions were crushed, and where the law of the galaxy was etched into the bones of countless civilizations. And today, the chamber echoed with a single verdict: humanity will surrender. The words came from High Speaker Orcs, his voice booming through translation nodes. All fleets, all weapons, and all sovereignty will be transferred to the Council within 72 standard hours. Failure to comply will be met with annihilation. The decree was relayed instantly across the hypernet, its signal leaping from star to star until it reached the Sol system. The expectation was the same as it had always been: fear, panic, and immediate compliance. That was the way of lesser species when the Council spoke. But when Earth's reply came, the galaxy held its breath. The transmission flickered to life in the center of the Council chamber. A woman stood at a podium, short by galactic standards, dark-haired, dressed in a navy suit with the seal of the United Terran Assembly on her lapel. She regarded the assembled alien delegates with a look that was neither submissive nor hostile. Then she laughed. Not a polite chuckle. Not nervous laughter. It was the kind that doubled her over, shoulders shaking, eyes watering. And when she caught her breath, she leaned forward and said in perfect galactic trade, 72 hours? That's cute. Gasps rippled through the chamber. The transmission ended without another word. The Council was baffled. Species had responded to ultimatums with rage, with bargaining, with silence, but never with laughter. Some believed it was a bluff. Others thought it a cultural misunderstanding. Orcs, however, saw it as the greatest insult ever given to the Council. Dispatch the enforcement fleet, he ordered. Show them what defiance costs. What Orcs didn't know, what no one in the galaxy knew, was that Earth had been preparing for this moment for over 100 years. It began the day humanity learned of the Council's existence, when early exploratory ships stumbled upon ruins on Europa's subsurface ocean floor. The ruins told stories, not of benevolent rulers, but of empires crushed under the Council's protection. Every species that resisted was erased. Earth's leaders had agreed on one thing: they would never be next. And so, in the shadows of normal spacefaring progress, Project Bastion was born. Shipyards were hidden in asteroid belts, disguised as abandoned mining colonies. Entire fleets of stealth warships were built in deep space voids where no Council sensor could reach. Automated defense grids were seated across the solar system, weapons that could turn space itself into a killing field. All the while, Earth played the part of a minor, unthreatening species, sending explorers, trading quietly, never drawing attention. The Council's fleet arrived in force: 5 dreadnoughts, 20 cruisers, and hundreds of smaller escort ships. They entered Sol space with their banners blazing, confident in the inevitability of their victory. Their first sign of trouble was the silence. No hails. No visible defense stations. No fleets scrambling to meet them. Perhaps they have fled already, one commander suggested. Then the stars themselves seemed to shimmer. From behind the curve of Earth's moon, a shadow emerged, but it was no natural object. It was massive, larger than any dreadnought in the fleet, its hull black as midnight and studded with faint blue lights. Then another appeared, and another, until the void around the Council's fleet was filled with hundreds of warships, each one bristling with weapons no alien eye had ever seen. The lead vessel broadcast a single message: "You have trespassed. Leave now, or be erased." The Council's fleet opened fire. The solar system lit up. Human warships moved like predators, slipping in and out of stealth between salvos. Beams of coherent plasma ripped through dreadnought armor. Railgun slugs the size of buses punched holes clean through cruisers. Swarms of autonomous drones darted between enemy ships, planting charges that detonated with miniature suns. The battle lasted precisely 8 minutes and 26 seconds. When it was over, the Council's fleet was gone, not crippled, not retreating, but gone. The wreckage was already being pulled into the gravity wells of nearby planets and moons. One Council frigate escaped, limping back to the core worlds with a scrambled, desperate account of what they had seen. 3 days later, Orcs once again addressed the Council chamber. His voice was not the booming authority of before, but tight and measured. "The humans will not be surrendering," he admitted. "They have requested mutual non-aggression." There was no vote. The Council's pride was wounded, but their survival instinct was stronger. The human question was quietly removed from the agenda. On Earth, President Marin Cole stood before a crowd of millions. The broadcast was carried on every channel, not just to human colonies but to sympathetic alien worlds listening from the shadows. She smiled faintly. "We don't surrender. Ever." And somewhere, in the deep quiet between stars, the galaxy began to wonder if perhaps the age of the Council was finally coming to an end. The Galactic Council had a flair for theatrics. Whenever they issued an ultimatum, they didn't just send a private communiqué. No, the Council broadcasted galaxy-wide, ensuring every citizen of every world could see exactly who was being humbled. They wanted humiliation to be part of the punishment. And today, the target was humanity. From the grand spire of the Council's core citadel, High Speaker Railtor addressed the galaxy. His 6 eyes glimmered in the hololight, his voice amplified to every comms network from the core to the rim. "The Terran species has until the next orbital cycle to surrender its fleets, disarm its militaries, and dissolve its governing bodies. Any refusal will result in complete planetary subjugation." The Council expected fear. They expected begging. They expected the humans to bow quickly, as so many species had before them. But that wasn't what they got. The feed cut to the Sol system, to a wide shot of Earth's capital. The camera zoomed in to reveal a crowd gathered before a podium, with President Elias Vance standing at its center. Behind him were soldiers in uniform, engineers in jumpsuits, farmers still in work clothes, scientists in lab coats. Vance adjusted the microphone. His expression was calm. Then he laughed. It wasn't a polite laugh. It wasn't nervous. It was full-bodied, unrestrained, joyous. And after a few seconds, the people behind him began laughing too, not in confusion, but in solidarity. Soldiers slapped each other on the back. Engineers doubled over. Children clutched their sides. Billions across the galaxy watched in shock. When the laughter finally faded, Vance leaned forward, eyes sharp. "We're not afraid of you. And if you think you can make us kneel, well." He gestured to the crowd. "You can hear what we think of that." The feed ended. In the Council chamber, murmurs erupted. The very idea of mocking an ultimatum was unprecedented. Many species in the chamber had been forced to surrender in centuries past, and none had dared anything but compliance. Railtor slammed a clawed hand on his podium. "They dare mock us in front of the galaxy," he hissed. "Dispatch the fleet. We will make them beg for mercy." What the Council didn't understand was that laughter, to humans, wasn't just amusement. It was defiance made audible. It was the roar of prey telling the predator, "I see you, and I'm not afraid." And it wasn't just Earth that had heard it. Across the galaxy, in forgotten colonies and outlaw stations, the broadcast replayed again and again. Smugglers on the Keverin belt grinned when they saw it. Rebel cells on Remos Prime raised glasses in tribute. Even enslaved laborers in the Council's fringe territories whispered the phrase, "The humans laughed." The ripple effect was immediate. Small, scattered uprisings began, tiny sparks in the darkness, inspired by the audacity of a species that refused to kneel. The Council, however, moved quickly. A fleet of enforcement ships was dispatched to Sol, 30 warships, including 2 dreadnoughts, equipped with weapons capable of glassing continents. But humanity didn't meet them head-on. As the fleet traveled through jump points, they encountered resistance at every stage. A Council destroyer emerging from hyperspace was immediately swarmed by unmanned drone fighters, their programming sharp and brutal. A cruiser was ambushed in an asteroid belt by human privateers flying jury-rigged warships, striking fast and vanishing into the rocks. At the Harkon Gate, the largest jump point leading into Sol space, the Council fleet slowed to regroup and found themselves confronted by a wall of mines. The mines didn't just explode, they warped space around them, hurling ships off course into the depths of uncharted systems. The fleet's advance became a crawl, their numbers dwindling before they ever reached Earth. By the time the Council ships entered Sol space, they were limping. Hulls were scarred, comms were filled with interference, and morale was fractured. That's when they saw the Terran defense fleet. Hundreds of ships, sleek, black, bristling with weapons, filled the void around Earth. They weren't stationary, they moved in formation, each maneuver perfect, as though the entire fleet were one living organism. The lead Terran warship opened a channel. A human admiral appeared on screen, his voice calm but with the faintest edge of amusement. "Welcome to Sol. We understand you've come to demand our surrender. You'll find we don't have the paperwork for that." Before the Council fleet could respond, the Terran fleet surged forward. The battle was a demonstration, not a war. Human railguns punched clean through alien shields. Plasma lances severed dreadnought spines in seconds. Swarms of AI-controlled interceptors sliced through enemy formations like piranhas through flesh. It was over in minutes. Of the 30 ships that entered Sol, only 5 escaped, limping back to the Council with a story they could barely believe themselves. In the aftermath, the Council tried to spin the defeat as a tactical withdrawal, but the galaxy had already seen too much. The broadcast of humanity's laughter was now paired with footage of the Council's burning ships drifting in Sol space. Uprisings grew bolder. Border worlds refused tribute payments. Independent systems openly declared they would follow Earth's example. Humanity, meanwhile, didn't gloat. There were no formal declarations of war or victory parades. Instead, President Vance made one final broadcast. He stood in the same place as before, the crowd behind him once again filled with people from every walk of life. He spoke softly this time, but his words carried the weight of steel. "We didn't laugh because we thought this would be easy. We laughed because you thought we'd ever give in. If you come again, we'll be ready. If you don't, maybe the galaxy will learn to laugh, too." The feed ended. In the dark corners of the galaxy, where rebellion simmered and fear had once ruled, that last line became a rallying cry. Maybe the galaxy will learn to laugh, too. And in the Council chamber, for the first time in centuries, there was silence, the kind born not of victory, but of uncertainty. The ultimatum came without ceremony. In the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, High Speaker Zarkor stood before the assembled delegates and spoke in the clipped, cold tone reserved for doomed species. "Humanity is hereby ordered to surrender its fleets, weapons, and territory. You have one standard week. Failure to comply will be met with total military enforcement." The decree was transmitted instantly across the hypernet, its signal flashing through jump relays and wormhole channels until it reached the Sol system. The Council's expectation was simple: they had delivered the same message to dozens of worlds over the centuries, and none had resisted for long. Some fought briefly. Most surrendered immediately. All eventually knelt. But Earth's reply was unlike anything they had ever received. The feed from the United Terran Assembly came through clean and sharp. A man in a dark suit stood behind a desk, hands folded. His eyes were calm, but there was a faint curl to his mouth, almost amusement. When he spoke, it was without bluster, without fear. "Come take it." Then he laughed once, short, dismissive, and cut the transmission. In the Council chamber, murmurs broke out. Zarkor's voice was like a blade. "Arrogance," he snarled. "We will teach them what becomes of those who mock the Council." Within the hour, the Council's most elite battle group was mobilized: 12 capital warships, 30 cruisers, and a swarm of escorts, each armed with the most advanced weapons in known space. The fleet's commander, Admiral Trr Ven, had never lost a campaign. He would not lose this one. The approach to Sol was uneventful at first. The fleet passed through the Harkos Gate without resistance, navigated the dense Kessel Belt without incident, and skirted the moons of Jovia with no sign of enemy ships. But the Admiral couldn't shake the feeling that it was too easy. The first sign came as the fleet approached the outer edge of the solar system. Without warning, the lead cruiser vanished from sensors. No explosion, no distress signal, just gone. Then another ship disappeared. And another. Panic rippled through the fleet's comm channels. Scans showed faint distortions ahead, pockets of gravitational anomalies that shouldn't have been there. "Gravity traps," one sensor officer whispered. Project Bastion. The Council had never heard of it. But for the past 50 years, humanity had been quietly seeding the solar system with layered defenses, weapons hidden in asteroid fields, quantum mines buried in the dark between planets, and artificial singularities masked by sensor ghosts. Each trap was designed not just to destroy, but to disorient, to scatter fleets, cut them off from formation, and isolate them for the kill. The Council fleet pressed forward, determined to push through. But the deeper they went, the worse it became. A minefield of charged plasma webs disabled an entire wing of escorts, their systems fried in seconds. A hidden railgun battery on an icy asteroid fired slugs the size of shuttles, tearing through cruiser hulls before they even knew where the shots came from. The Admiral ordered a retreat to regroup, but the jump coordinates had been scrambled by localized jamming. The fleet was trapped in system. That was when the Terran ships arrived. They didn't appear on sensors. They didn't decloak with dramatic flair. They were simply their massive, angular warships sliding out of the blackness like predators from shadow. The largest of them, a Titan-class dreadnought, dwarfed the Council's capital ships. Its forward hull was lined with what looked like cathedral spires, each one an emitter for weapons the Council had never seen. A channel opened. "Council fleet," a woman's voice said, smooth and unhurried. "You've reached restricted space. You are in violation of Terran sovereign borders. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded." The Admiral barked a laugh. "You think?" The Titan fired. A beam of white-blue energy carved through one of his capital ships, splitting it in two. Another beam followed, then another, until the void was lit by the slow, silent deaths of ships that had once been the pride of the Council. What followed was not a battle. It was a dismantling. Human strike wings emerged from asteroid shadows, cutting through Council escorts with precision fire. Stealth corvettes darted between cruisers, launching EMP bursts that left them dead in space. Boarding craft latched onto immobilized ships, their AI-controlled marines overwhelming defenders in minutes. The Admiral fought to rally his fleet, but every attempt to regroup was countered instantly. It was as though humanity knew their moves before they made them. Half an hour later, only one Council ship remained intact, the Admiral's flagship. The Terran Titan moved alongside it, a wall of steel and menace. A channel opened again. "Go home," the same woman said. "Tell them what happened here. And tell them if they ever come back, they won't leave." The Titan turned away. The Admiral didn't wait. He engaged his FTL drives and fled the system, the wreckage of his fleet drifting behind him. When the Admiral returned to the Council, he expected outrage, demands for vengeance, calls to assemble an even larger force. Instead, the chamber was silent. The other delegates had seen the telemetry. They had heard the fragments of battle comms. They had read the Admiral's own report, which detailed weapons and tactics far beyond anything the Council possessed. To attack again would not be war. It would be suicide. Zarkor, pale beneath his scaled hide, finally spoke. "The humans will be left alone." On Earth, the incident was barely mentioned in public broadcasts. The government issued a simple statement: "Our sovereignty remains intact." No parades, no boasting. But in quiet corners of the galaxy, the story spread, not the official reports, but the whispered version. The one where a Council fleet vanished into Sol and only a single ship returned. The one where humanity invited the Council to come take it and left them too afraid to try again. And somewhere, deep in the asteroid fields of the Kuiper Belt, more Terran warships waited in silent readiness, their hulls black against the eternal dark. Because Earth knew the truth. The Council would come again one day. And when they did, the trap would be waiting.